This planning overview and content is based on the HASS topic Ancient Egypt, with links to the Australian Curriculum Year 7, Inquiry and Skills Researching, Content Descriptor, Sequence Historical Events, Developments and Periods. The main resource is from the British Museum. The literacy elements linked to the Australian curriculum that are covered in the topic include: analyse how point of view is generated in visual text by means of choices, for example, gaze, angle and social distance. Understand that the coherence of more contents relies on devices that signal text structure and guide readers, for example, overviews, initial and concluding paragraphs, topic sentences, indexes or sitemaps or breadcrumb trails for online text. Understand the way language evolves to reflect a changing world, particularly in response to the use of new technology for creating text and communicating. Understand how language is used to evaluate text and how evaluations about a text can be substantially referenced to the text and other sources. Understand how accents, styles of speech and idioms express and create personal and social identities. Recognise and analyse the way characterisation, events, settings are combined in narratives and discuss the purposes and appeal of different approaches. The numeracy elements linked to the Australian curriculum that are covered in this topic include: given coordinates, plot points on a Cartesian plane and find the coordinates for a given point. Establish the formulas for areas of triangles, rectangles and parallelograms and use these in problem solving. Data representation, interpretation, identify and investigate issues involving numerical data collected from primary and secondary sources. The key concepts and competencies that are based in the Ancient Egypt topic include: students to learn about daily life in Ancient Egypt, students to learn about the geography of natural landscapes and habitat, students to learn about ancient beliefs in worshipping gods and goddesses, students to understand how and why ancient Egyptians built pyramids for the pharaohs and queens, students to learn about aspects of time in the civilization of ancient Egypt, which lasted over 3,000 years, students to learn how the earliest Egyptians buried their dead. Several types of text are accessed and created in the following activities when students investigate the change in maps from ancient Egypt time and modern Egypt. Compare and contrast how modern changes such as the Suez Canal have affected the Nile. View written and visual displays on mummification and write a diary entry, a day in the life of a mummy. Give a recount of a game of Sonnet, explain a version of the rules. View topographical maps and various sorts. Use the app to sort the objects into chronological order from oldest to youngest. View a catalogue of gods and goddesses worshipped by ancient Egyptians. Recreate a timeline with important dates. Examine literacy, compare and contrast. Analyse wall paintings from tombs. Recreate a timeline with important Egyptian dates. Investigate the size of a great pyramid and work out height and area. Investigate displays and retail sequences. View written and visual displays on mummification and then write a diary entry. Read the digital stories and compare and contrast. The subject-specific vocabulary or terminology students will need to include various words from about administration through to ventilation and vizier. The numeracy and mathematical knowledge students will need to understand include scale drawings and working out the height and area of a pyramid, sorting objects into chronological order from oldest to youngest, creating timelines with dates, reading maps and location coordinates. The processes needed to demonstrate the literacy and numeracy learning are: experience the challenge of playing a popular game of Senet, explore maps of Egypt, learning about pharaohs and their connections to pyramids, experience the virtual challenge of being locked in the museum, explore the world of ancient Egypt through hieroglyphs, investigate the different parts of landscape in ancient Egypt, learn about bodies, how bodies are embalmed and wrapped, and gods and goddesses and timelines. The social and cultural understandings include students being able to understand that the beliefs and way of life were different in ancient Egyptian time.